Welcome back, gamers. It's Wintermute here from Grind This Game, and this is probably the last episode of the thermal upgrade series because there's a new update coming out tomorrow called the agricultural upgrade with a bunch of new things, new foods. There's a natural gas geyser. There's a few other new things coming, plus improvements to the UI, improvements to performance. A lot of exciting stuff. So I'll be playing that tomorrow. And I was at cycle 399 here, so I thought I'd make one more last video, hit cycle 400, and kind of talk about the final things I did with the base and maybe some stuff that I learned that basically lessons I learned that I'll probably try not to do in the next base that I build. So since the last video, I tried to build more food down here because I was running out of food. In my next base, I'm going to have a plan for when I run out of dirt, because once you run out of dirt, you have to switch over to Bristle Blossom. That may be less of a problem because there's going to be more food variety, and you'll be able to have seeds for the kind of worm plant. I forget the name of it, but if you grow like a perfect version of it, you'll be able to get seeds. So it won't be as much of an issue, I don't think, running out of seeds for that. I'm going to try to keep my fertilizer makers close to my plants so that the travel time is, really brief. Because you can pipe water pretty much as far as you want. I mean, there's the resources for the pipe is not that expensive. So it's easier to have the stuff that interacts really close together and then keep the water in a different place. The other thing I'm going to do is, instead of having a polluted water kind of basin and or container and a clean water one, I'm just going to have a mixed water reservoir, and then when I pull out of it, I'll filter it if I need it filtered, and I'll leave it dirty if I need it dirty. That way I don't have to worry about polluted water getting in one or the other, or clean water. I'll just have one basin. And I think that'll make things easier. I'm also going to try to keep power generation really close to oxygen, because that was an issue with this base. I had some areas that were just CO2 rich, and like here is more ideal. I got my algae deoxidizers right beside my power, so they're not going to suffocate, and the power can basically keep generating all the time. Other stuff, I'll probably try to get as many geysers as early in the game as possible, and try to have them all leaking or flowing into one common water reservoir. And I'll probably try to keep one single hydrogen collection point near the top of the map. I have a few throughout. I have one here and one down below, and then a lot of it's kind of ending up here. I'm also going to use probably filters a bit more smartly. And you can use them in parallel, so you can filter out hydrogen, then maybe filter out chlorine and send it somewhere. So instead of just using one at a time, I might kind of stack them up and be a bit smarter about where I put the gases. Even with 25 colonists, I find that one shower and 2 lavatories is enough. There's not really any issues with that, so that's a pretty good ratio. If I go beyond that, then I might need to build more. What else did I learn? I find that the coal generator, even if it's priority 9, they don't deliver coal to it in time or as quickly as I'd like. I'm going to be a bit more careful with priorities in general. I tend to set everything 9, and that just, so when I actually need things done right away, I can't really get them to do them. So I'm going to be a bit more, kind of use them a bit more wisely. I'm just going to let it run here. Hit cycle 400. I should mention there's a streamer on Twitch called Eadra, and she went to cycle 1245 with the game, and I have a feeling she basically, I haven't looked at all of her streams, but she basically mined almost the whole map, which is pretty amazing. I think she only had 25 duplicants near the end, but I was able to get to the corners, all the corners of the map, but I wasn't able to kind of get the fog of war removed from everywhere. Got close. I got this top part, and I did get the left side, but not completely. So maybe the next round I'll try to kind of expose 100% of the map and then mine as much as I can. It's just the game got laggier and laggier, and I noticed when she was streaming, it was like painfully slow. I'm guessing she had frame rate around 4 or 6. Right now, paused I get 31, and running I get about 14, 11, and that's when I'm recording. It's a little bit higher when I'm not recording, but it's a bit too slow to basically continue on. One thing I learned during the developers of the game did a recent Twitch stream, and they talked about all the new updates coming. One of the things they mentioned was food actually rots faster in polluted oxygen area. I'm not sure if that's the case for the fridge, but it was for the ration box. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. I actually did end up playing the game first time round to around cycle 350, but I wasn't recording anything, and I was kind of just learning the game. And then I started from scratch and played through to cycle 400 here. So if I had gone kind of from the beginning all the way through, I probably would have gotten to around cycle 700, 800, if the game didn't get too slow, which was the issue. I never did figure out how to get clothes working properly. I got some people to wear some stuff, but I promise to figure that out before the next round. Cycle 400, here we are. Woo. Time played 35 hours. 36 hours. I think Eadra, the Twitch streamer, I think that Eadra, the Twitch streamer, had 800 hours played, which is pretty insane. I don't quite have time to play this 8 or more hours a day. I like to play other games as well, even as much as I love it. Stress is getting high. Maybe I'll just let them all stress out. See what happens. I might just let it run on autopilot and see what happens. See if everyone dies, or whether I have it set up in such a way that they just survive. I'm sure something would break at some point, but let's just observe. At some point this might overflow, as this may also overflow. We would probably run out of algae, potentially, but maybe not, because we do have an algae source over here. These puffs are dropping slime, and the slime is getting turned into algae, so I don't see people come over here very often though and keep these batteries powered up. Hands are off the controls. I will observe only and see what happens. See how many cycles they can last without any management. I didn't build any lights or anything. I didn't really see the point. I mean, they look nice, but... and I think they're good for certain things, but... for stress, I just made lots of paintings. Decor looks pretty good. See, a lot of stuff is... no, and the paintings, I mean, that Priority 9 doesn't do anything, but... food shortage. I'm hoping that... oh, someone's lashing out. I'm hoping that these plants will just... once they get old enough, like these ones here, they just drop their fruit. So we'll see if they're able to do that fast enough to keep everyone fed. We're probably all going to reach stress 100 here without sending them to the massage tables. We'll run out of coal eventually, I think. Stress is creeping up. Nickel at 69. Oh, I said I wouldn't do any interactions, but I don't want to listen to that. You'd be happy to know in the new version you can disable the printing pod. So that if you're done, if you have enough duplicants, you don't need to listen to that anymore. Beyond sleeping, I guess there's no real way for them to de-stress on their own. I think that changes the next update as well. You can set the massage tables for them to automatically go there, which is nice. So you don't have to micromanage that anymore. But massage tables will require power, which is good, I think. It gets tedious to sending the highest stress people to the tables all the time. You can also tell them to get off the tables at a certain time, certain stress level. So if you're okay with them being at 25 stress, you can set like a band of 25 to 50. I wonder when things will completely unravel. It's starting. I've never actually let the game just kind of run like this. It'll be interesting to see. I'll run it until at least until we have a death. Hopefully that doesn't take many, many hours. And I'll run things at like 10x speed if it gets really boring. Oh, they're stuck. But I can't do anything to help them. Sorry, Ellie. You will probably die there. How did you even get there? Who knows? It looks impossible, but how did they get up there? Did she jump? That's very weird. Okay, 4 are starving. Oh. Our first death in around 3 cycles without any management. I have seen much smaller bases where they're completely self-sufficient and then they run forever, or a very, very, very long time. There's people using the development mode where you can set the speed really, really high and they can build whatever they want, so it's not really realistic, but like eventually we will run out of sand, which we need for air filtration, which is not critical. We need it for water filtration, which is also not absolutely critical, I don't think. But we have, how much sand do we have? 56,000. I think we're going to run out anytime soon. The stress does come down at night. Probably not enough to recover. So probably all be 100 eventually. Oh, we're out of food. Things are starting to unravel. I thought things would go worse faster than they have so far, but I guess people will just continue to die from starvation until these plants are kind of in balance. It's not very exciting when you don't do anything. Oh. Someone died. Hassan is starved to death. Looks like he was stuck underwater too. Okay, we're down to 22 people. Okay, got another death. 2 deaths. 2 starvations. A lot of people at stress 100 now. Down to 20 people. Someone else has died. Oh, and the dead bodies are going to really stress them out. But we're not going to bury them. Just see what happens. I'm going to guess they're going to all survive another 10. I think they're going to make it to cycle 420. Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. 4 just died. 3 just died. I guess the food is not coming out. Oh wow. It's happening fast. Down to 15. Okay, cycle 420 might have been too much. If we lose too many power generators, then we're in big trouble. It'll all fall apart. Okay, down to 14. Oh, 13. Got some food now, at least. Too little, too late, I guess. There's a game called Game of Life, which is kind of like a computer science simulation type thing with only a few simple rules, but it's basically primitive life forms on kind of a grid. And even with the simplest of rules, if you set up the initial states in a certain way, you can get some pretty elaborate patterns forming. But often the game will kind of get into a steady state where it just repeats in the loop forever. So I'm wondering if we'll ever get to a point here where everything just kind of stabilizes. With the exception of sand running out, or slime running out, which shouldn't happen, because we have puffs making slime. But some other critical thing could break and it could all unravel. And I'm not going to wait until the sand runs out, because that could take actual real days. But we're up to 43,000 calories. Looks like we may be losing 300 algae per cycle. And we have 18,000, so we could last many more cycles if that's going to be the first kind of breaking point. I don't know where this meal lice came from. Interesting. I was out of meal lice completely, but maybe someone dug some out. Yeah, algae may be the first thing we run out of. Or coal, but coal might not kill everyone. It is pretty late, so maybe I'll let the game run overnight for like 8 or 9 hours. Check in the morning. Probably can't record all night though. we could see, I mean, it may crash overnight as well. I've never ran it for 8 hours straight, I don't think. So at this point, I'm sound asleep, and the game's been running for, I think, around 4 or 5 hours. It was 110 cycles, and during that time, we ran out of sand, and we ran out of algae, and we're almost out of coal. And this is where some people start to die. So let's just keep watching here. It comes up pretty soon. Okay, there's one. 2 from suffocation. And I think I found their bodies over near the other water reservoir that I had. And I think they were over there repairing something that got damaged from too much water pressure. So I'll skip ahead until the next death. So actually, a lot more people die than just one, so I'll just kind of talk you through the last final. I mean, this is many hours of footage sped up a lot, but we just went from 11 down to 7 in not that many cycles. And we have tons of food left. We have 300,000 food. So it was all the AI, like the duplicants going to like a spot and getting trapped in either water or on a ladder, or but usually water, because there's a lot of basically pee that gets built up in the base from everyone. Vomit and pee, basically. They drown in their own vomit and pee, which is sad. That's probably the terrible way to go. There's still probably 3 minutes of this, and this is sped up 50, actually even more than 50 times. Ended up doing it 100 times just to get through it. So each cycle is about a couple seconds. And food is never really an issue. Oh, right here is where the pee went out of control. Absolute. It's just pee and vomit everywhere. And they get stuck in it, which is, that's how the last kind of, oh, one just died. That's how the last few die, kind of trapped in little bits of pee, kind of made it in the main area right here. So they're out of algae, they're almost out of coal. Not that that matters, because everything is kind of broken up top. So we get down to 2. It hasn't happened yet, but the last 2 actually last quite a while. And they have no issues with food. But at some point, like fertilizer right now is at 2,000. Oh, now it's back up to 11,000. So the fertilizer just basically kept working for a very long time, which kept the bristle blossoms alive. This is where I kind of wake up in the morning and I look at where everyone died. See how they died. Now we're down to 3. And we still have a couple minutes before we get down to 2, I think. A couple minutes, actually, when it's sped up 100 times. So lots of calories. Oh, this one's interesting. So Lindsay gets trapped on the ladder. While she's on the ladder, she actually doesn't seem to need any energy or calories. She's not expending energy, she just sits there. So as long as she has oxygen, she would have lived forever, but eventually she ran out of oxygen and dies. So we're down to 2. tons of food, 410,000 calories. It takes a while till we get down to 1. I'm just keeping an eye on the food here just to see, because eventually the food should rot, but because it's in kind of a cold area, it lasts way longer than I thought it would. Getting close. Basically out of fertilizer. It keeps going up, but eventually they can't make it anymore. We ran out of copper ore and iron ore, and a lot of our, I guess all of our manual generators were made out of those, so they repaired them as much as they could until they ran out of metal, and then they couldn't repair them anymore. So here we are back to normal speed. And someone's suffocating. This is the final death. I say final death, even though there's 2. Okay, there. Down to 1. Now what happens next is kind of interesting. Our last duplicant gets caught in kind of an infinite loop. I think it's Bubbles, and she's just grabbing slime from the puffs, running to the storage container and putting it in. And that's all she does. And the weird thing is, from now, you'll notice that it says cycle 665. I guess the last death was actually not during 666 cycle, but during 665, which is kind of funny. Anyway, Bubbles, well, she's in this loop. She doesn't seem to be eating at all. So she doesn't kill the calories stay at 104,000 for the next 40 cycles or so. So she's not eating, food's not growing. I'm just checking out Trav's death here. So yeah, so I guess it's a bug with the game. Maybe it's a special thing when you're on your last colonist, but I think I've seen I've seen people completely die, so I don't think it's a bug. But we're down to 1. I'm going to skip to the very end. Because she was not eating any food at all, I just ended the recording because there was no real point continuing on, because I think it would have gone on forever. Sped things up again 100x, just to get to the very last, well, it's not the last cycle, but the cycle where I kind of ended the recording. So we're still doing about a cycle every second or so. And I guess calories did go down, but you'll notice that they did stay at 84,000 for every cycle. And it's not like food is growing and she's eating it. Bubbles, our last duplicant, just doesn't need to eat, which seems like a bug in the game. So this video is a little bit different than kind of my other videos, just because I wanted to see how long could things actually stay on autopilot without any intervention. And I might try this with. I'm really looking forward to the agricultural update, which is tomorrow. It's actually today when I was narrating this, but tomorrow when I recorded this. And so here's Bubbles, and I made it. Here it is at real time, not sped up anymore. She got actually a lot of the duplicants got really fast. They had like athletics of over 50, so they're running 50 times faster than normal, which is cool. And you'll notice, yeah, Calories hasn't budged, and all she does is goes back and forth, getting slang from puffs. Not very exciting. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, and it's possible that you don't like it because it's quite a bit longer and there's lots of like time-lapse stuff going on, and I added some funky music to make it a little bit more interesting, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you want any more kind of idle kind of non-intervention type videos in the future, just to see how, if we can basically make a colony that's self-sustaining, that doesn't require any intervention at all, because it's kind of fun to do. It's kind of a different way to play the game. I mean, there's definitely some setup that needs to be done, but it's kind of fun. So don't forget to subscribe if you like my videos. I'll be putting out a lot of videos in the next few weeks because of the update that's coming up. And as always, thanks for watching.